Hey editor, over the last year, editing taught me more than any breakdown, plugin, or workflow ever could. On paper, it was a strong year. I edited videos that crossed tens of millions of views, I worked inside creator businesses most editors never get to see up close, and I built Elite Editor Academy while watching students raise rates and land better clients, but the lessons that actually stuck didn't come from wins. They came from watching the same patterns repeat in my own work and across hundreds of editors who emailed me, messaged me, or quietly stalled. So, I want to walk you through 25 lessons from the last year of editing that didn't teach me what I expected. The first category is in life and energy. Number 1. The months where I earned the most money editing were also the months where editing felt the least creative. There were stretches where the work was flowing and the income was great, but I felt disconnected from the craft. I was executing, not thinking, solving, not creating. It showed me that money alone is a bad proxy for whether your editing career is actually healthy. Number 2. One of my calmest stretches came when I stopped filling every available hour with edits. I used to pack my schedule because empty time felt irresponsible, but the moment I let ideas sit unfinished instead of forcing them into timelines, my thinking improved. Less output gave me better judgment, and that really surprised me. But we have number 3. Editing fewer videos for creators who trusted my judgment felt better than editing many videos for creators who question every decision. There's a huge difference between feedback and distrust. When a creator trusts you, editing feels collaborative. When they don't, every cut feels defensive. That difference matters more than pay. Number 4. Burnout didn't come from editing too much. It came from editing to prove my value. Anytime I was trying to justify my role, show how hard I worked, or impress someone, I burned out fast. When I focused on solving a clear freaking problem, energy, it came back. Burnout was emotional. It wasn't mechanical, you know? Number 5. Staying constantly busy in timelines was easier than being honest about uncertainty in my career. Busyness can hide fear really well. If you're always editing, you never have to ask where things are actually going. That avoidance feels productive, but it's not. Now, the next category is clarity and mindset. Number 6. I thought my editing skills were the problem. The real problem was not knowing what result each edit was supposed to create. For a long time, I kept improving technique without improving clarity. Once I started asking, what should this moment do for the viewer? My edits got better faster. Skill without direction just creates noise. Number 7. Most editors who say they lack confidence have never, they clearly have never seen proof that their decisions improve results, because confidence doesn't come from motivation. It comes from evidence. When you can you're making me tweak. It's gosh darn 11 p.m. I need to lock in. When you can point to moments where your edit changed retention, pacing, or clarity, or confidence, your confidence stops being fragile. And I'm tripping over my words because it's like I'm having a flood of information just hit me at once, because it just reminds me of all those times I was like, why do I not feel like I have any power here in this certain, client relationship or editing relation? Like, why do I feel like so replaceable? And it all sources back. I had no proof. I had no freaking proof. The confidence comes shortly after that. Number 8, checking performance metrics too often made me doubt edits that were already correct. I'd see one little dip or one little comment and immediately assume something was wrong. Half the freaking time, nothing was. That habit trained me to distrust my own judgment. Number 9, watching too many successful editors made normal progress feel slow. Because you know how it is. Highlight reels, they distort reality. You stop seeing steady improvement as progress and start seeing it as failure. That comparison, it kills your momentum. Even when you're doing absolutely fantastic. You could be pulling in six figures a year. You could be pulling in a mil a year, but then you see a guy making 10 mil. You're like, hey, yo, you know what I mean? So it's human nature. Number 10, waiting to feel ready before shipping an edit kept me stuck. Every meaningful jump came after shipping something imperfect. Imperfect. Number 11, the editors who moved forward fastest accepted uncertainty. They didn't wait to know how things were going to turn out. The ones who waited for guarantees stayed exactly where they were. Number 12, real progress often felt slow right before something improved. The danger is changing direction too early. Most breakthroughs I've seen came right after a stretch that felt flat. Now, the next category is editing craft and judgment. Number 13, I realized I was using polished execution to hide weak decision-making. Clean cuts and smooth transitions can disguise unclear thinking. Once I noticed that, I started prioritizing decisions over polish, and the work improved immediately. So, number 14, editing skill helps. Editing taste matters more. Clear decisions determine outcomes. Tools don't decide what stays or goes. Judgment does. That's the difference between a clean edit and an effective one. Number 15, editors who relied most on automation avoided making hard, creative decisions. Look, automation can speed things up, but it can't replace taste. The hardest moments still require a human choice, but maybe in 10 years we're cooked, who knows. Number 16, I delivered edits that were clean and emotionally clear that still underperformed. Sometimes the problem is the idea, not the edit. So learning to accept that saves a lot of unnecessary self-doubt. Number 17, when viewers leave, it's usually because the edit didn't explain why the moment mattered. Energy doesn't fix confusion. Clarity does. Number 18, the editor's clients trust long-term, make predictable decisions under pressure. They're not flashy. They're reliable. That reliability is what builds careers. Now, the next category we have is clients, YouTube, and reality. Number 19, editors who get recommended make creators' lives easier. They reduce stress. They don't add complexity. That's what gets remembered. Number 20, when feedback got emotional, editors who asked clarifying questions improved. The ones who defended themselves, they're just fighting back, they stalled. But curiosity always won. Number 21, constantly changing my process kept me busy, but stopped anything from compounding. One good system beats 5 half-built crappy piece of craps. Number 22, editors chase shortcuts because thinking like a high-level editor takes time. But that thinking is the actual advantage. It's the actual leverage. Now, the next category, actually the final category, gosh darn, money, positioning, and longevity. Number 23, editors struggle to raise rates because they can't explain the business result of their work. When value is vague, pricing feels scary, but clarity fixes that. I was thinking about that earlier today. It's the weirdest phenomenon, and it never gets old. And I hear it from absolutely everybody. When you are struggling to get even $100 edits, $200 edits, you just wish you could get one of those. And then you get one. You start studying psychology, you start studying the audience behavior, you start studying the creator, you start making decisions in a way where you give the audience something they didn't know they wanted. They didn't know they wanted it until you gave it to them. Once that happens, you're starting to charge a little bit more. You're starting to charge in the thousands. And it's just weird to look back, because then your glass ceiling is altered and you're thinking to yourself, well, I never thought $2,000 an edit was attainable. I never thought $3,000 was attainable for an edit. And here we are. But then that becomes your new normal. So now, okay, I only charge $2,000. I will only charge $3,000. And those are the new minimums. What used to be your ceiling is now the minimum. That is what always blows my mind. And it happens for everybody that actually has a system. It's the same thing every time. Once they have a system, they lock onto a higher rate. It intimidates them at first, but then it becomes the new normal. Now they have the confidence to back it up because they make the right decisions. They produce real outcomes for their clients, and there's no going back. You can't go lower price after that. You just can't. Your brain physically won't allow you. It just won't. It's the craziest thing ever. Number 24. If you can't clearly say who you help and what problem you remove, pricing will always feel uncertain. That sentence alone changes everything. Now, number 25, the final one. The lesson I kept proving, even when I was tired of hearing it, is this. Clear thinking compounds. 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 Clear. Yes. Even when it feels repetiting. Oh, I'm tweaking. It's 11:21. I'm getting real sleepy, but I'm locked in for you. I'm locked in for you. I got to tell you this. I'm locked in for you. Even when it feels repetitive, even when it feels boring, clear thinking compounds. Your mind is your greatest asset. Invest in it. Now, if any of this felt uncomfortably specific, you're not behind. You're not behind. You're just seeing the pattern earlier than most. Now, by the way, oh my goodness, I got this email from an Elite Editor Academy student a few days ago, and it still blows my mind. Within 39 days of joining, he went from doing documentary-style YouTube videos in Spanish for $150, $150, to landing a long-term project in English at $400 per video with a $1,200 monthly retainer and room to increase as the channel grows. Like, what are we talking about, folks? What are we talking about? On the call, he said his number, he gave the rate, he stayed quiet, and they immediately said it sounded fair. They paid for the first video right away, before he even started working. This is literally what Sergio said. He said, I never thought it was possible that someone would pay me this much for a YouTube video. That's how it happens. The glass ceiling breaks. Simple as that. Wait as long as you want. Wait as long as you want. The Academy. I was watching Shark Tank the other day. I've been addicted to Shark Tank. It's the funniest show in the world. But I used to hate the one guy, Kevin, Mr. Wonderful. I used to hate him when I was a little kid watching the show. I was like, oh, he's so evil. He's so evil. But as I grow up, right, he's just hilarious. Yes, he's still got the evil, but he's hilarious. But he says this line. And it gets me every time. He says, all roads lead to Mr. Wonderful. All these business people are offering these other business owners money. They're saying they're going to invest in the company. Then they say, never mind, I'm out. I'm not investing. You're done. Mr. Wonderful is still sitting there in the middle, just like, well, you going to take my deal or what? You've been waiting for it. Come on, just go ahead and do it. That's how it feels with Elite Editor Academy. You're going to show up eventually. I'll see you soon. Y'all have a good one.